Hey everyone, welcome back to Today in Tech. I'm Julia Beauchamp and I'm here with Computer World Executive Editor Ken Mingus as well as Macworld Executive Editor Michael Simon. We are live on YouTube as well as on the Computer World LinkedIn page, so if you have any questions or comments while we're discussing, please do leave them in the live chat or the comments, and we'll do our very best to get back to you while we are actually live. So moving then on to the topic of the day. So I wanted to talk today sort of about like the future of mobile trends. It kind of seems like, first of all, everyone's kind of doing the same thing, and there's kind of a lot of gimmicks going on. Yet just yesterday, Microsoft launched or announced rather, it's not released quite yet, the Surface Duo 2, which is a folding phone. Certainly not the first folding phone ever released, but I thought it was would be interesting to talk about, where is the mobile industry going? Is this just a gimmick? Is in like 5 years, are we all going to laugh about folding phones? I wanted to talk about that. So I guess.
Wait, can't we laugh about them now?
You took my line. I was going to say, can't we laugh about them now? I don't want to wait 5 years. What's the point?
Fair enough. Yeah, I think I don't know. I think that I certainly just speaking for myself here. When I'm looking at a folding phone, I'm not thinking, oh yeah, it's something I'd use every day. But maybe it's just because I don't have one.
Maybe. I mean, they definitely have a wow factor. Well, there's a wow factor, but let's be clear. The Surface Duo is not a folding phone. It's a dual screen phone. The screen doesn't fold. It opens.
Okay.
It's two phones connected
it's
with
two screens, and there's a bezel between them, and they work mostly separately, independently of each other. Whereas the Galaxy Z Fold 3, which is the worst name ever, that's a true screen that opens into folds into a larger one. Now, the question is, what's the point, right? Like, why do we need this stuff? So Apple just came out with the iPad mini, which is, in my mind, the perfect portable
That's a great device. Yeah, that's a good one.
Size. 8.3 inches, mostly, they call it all screen. It's not quite all screen, but it's a lot of screen, probably 85+% screen to body ratio. Very thin, very light, all that stuff. It's fantastic. Now, the concept of a folding phone would be to take that and fold it so you can put it in your pocket.
Right.
But what are you
flip
really
phone
gaining?
Style.
Yeah, right. Like a flip phone. What are you really gaining? What are you gaining by doing that? And that's the question. Is it a tablet? Is it a phone? I've used them. Not for any like real extended period of time, but I've tried them. And like I said, there's definitely a wow factor. It's cool when you do it. Once that wears off, you kind of have, I won't say the worst of both worlds, but the mediocre of both worlds. Whereas it's not really a great phone and it's not really a great tablet. So you have this very thick, very fragile device that doesn't do things quite as well as like the iPhone 13 or as well as the iPad Pro or the iPad Air, the iPad Mini, and you're kind of in between here. Now, what Microsoft is doing, I kind of like, because they're emphasizing the productivity aspect.
Sure.
Less a phone and more a device to get work done, and it's that whole Windows Office concept. They're probably better positioned for it to succeed, but it's not going to succeed there either, because first of all, it's way too expensive. Second of all, people don't buy Android phones from Microsoft, so that's two hurdles. And the third one is that you really need to be connected to some ecosystem for all of this to work. So Apple is positioned to probably blow this market open. I just don't know that they're ever going to do it.
Wait, Michael, when you say this market, you mean the folding phone
tablet
thing?
Yeah, because it's about connectivity. It's about lock-in, ecosystem lock-in because you're combining two products that you would buy separately. And Samsung does it, but Samsung doesn't have the ecosystem that Apple has. Microsoft does it. Microsoft doesn't have the ecosystem Apple has either. I mean, they do on the PC side, but not on the tablet side. Surface is a PC. iPad is a portable. They're different, So you throw a phone into that concept and it just doesn't work for me. And Samsung doesn't have just the I don't know what Samsung's missing. I mean, they make great phones, they make great PCs. There's something there about the Samsung Galaxy interface that people just don't stay with or use in the way that they use iOS and tvOS and all that stuff combined.
Well, I'm just going to say real quick, to Juliet's earlier point about where is mobile going, and we were talking about this a few minutes ago. The issue here to me seems to be that, innovation has sort of slowed here. I mean, we're talking about the Surface Duo 2, which has at best a mixed use case. It's a lot of cool technology. There's been a lot of money spent on developing it and the hardware and software. This is also the week that the iPhone 13, 13 Pro arrive. Great devices, but once again, iterative, not really specifically innovated in a larger scale. I know there's lots of things that Apple does with the phone, the battery, the ProMotion screen, all the things that add up to the iPhone experience. But the iPhone that's going to arrive on the 24th tomorrow, doesn't look that much different from one 5 years ago, or even radically different from one, 10 years ago. And I just wonder, are we at a point now where companies like Microsoft, because they've got the money to spend on this kind of research, are sort of throwing spaghetti at the wall to see what sticks, which is why the Duo 2 exists, and waiting to see if an audience or a market will build for it? Is that, you think that's
that absolutely seems to be the case. And Apple famously says 1,000 no's for every yes. They don't iterate in public ever.
Right.
So, and that's the wrong word. They don't innovate in public. I don't know what I'm trying to say, but Apple's not going to release a product that's not done, in the sense that they're not going to release something and say, well, let's see if people want this.
Yeah.
But no, they'll change it, they'll iterate it, they'll develop it, they'll evolve it. But if you look at the original Apple Watch, the original iPhone, the original Mac, for that matter, everything that came after, whether innovative or iterative, it's all an evolution of that original concept. They don't scrap it all and throw it away. Now, the Apple Watch is a good example because that's changed a lot since it launched. And that was only 2015. But the core concept of what it is and what it does is the same. It looks essentially the same. It does the fitness thing, the messaging, and obviously, time and notifications and things that are on your wrist. And like I said, WatchOS has changed a lot. The functionality has changed a lot. It has cellular. It does a lot of things on its own now. It doesn't need the phone, that stuff like that. But what Apple presented to us in 2015 as the Apple Watch is essentially the same. Same thing with the iPhone. Mm-hmm. I mean, you put an iPhone 1 next to an iPhone 13. I mean, they're ridiculous. But the core concept is the same.
That's what I mean. Yes. I mean, obviously, there's been so much that's happened in the last, 15 years on the phone. But in terms of, what it is, what it does, other than the addition of, say, apps and the camera. I mean, obviously, the iPhone started off as a phone with a screen, and now it's basically a camera with a phone.
Right.
And when you look at how Apple is pitching the new iPhones this year, it's all about photography and video and the cinematic or cinema, whatever that video mode is, things like that.
Cinematic.
And also it runs on the A15 Bionic, and you can get a terabyte of storage, and you got 5G, whatever, but it's all about that. Mm-hmm. And you're right, Apple did the same thing with the watch. They took a look at the first or second generation, looked to see what people were doing with them, and then kind of went in that direction, along with, a lot of health stuff, fitness stuff.
Yeah, they definitely pay attention, but they also don't rush stuff. And like the point of all this is, we may never see a folding phone from Apple, but if we do, it's going to be one that has a solid foundation to start with. Like they're going to have, okay, this is why we're doing this. Mm-hmm. It's not going to be, well, we have this technology, we can fold glass, so let's make a phone and then we'll figure all the rest out later. Like, no, the concept is going to start. Like, this is why we need this. And here's the device you need to do it with.
Sure.
Like that's, if you look at every Apple product introduction, they start with why we're making this. This is what you're going to do with it. This is what it's for. And then they show it to us. Steve Jobs was famous with that because he would have this crazy buildup remember the MacBook Air out of an envelope. The
I
iMac
love
rose,
that.
rose
My,
from a
my
stage.
first
Yeah.
carrying case for the Air was an envelope just so I could do that.
Yeah, and it was all very, very polished and slick. But the point was, the product is the hardware is the end result of all this stuff that the engineering is on the inside, and the concept and the strategy, and then we build this beautiful thing around all that. So a folding phone, the Duo is cool. I mean, Apple could do that, sure, it's cool, and people would buy it. But what's the point? What's the reason for it to exist? Yeah. You said the iPhone 13 is the camera. They evolved the iPhone. Yeah, it's a fantastic camera, probably the best, if not the best, right up there. And that's what it's evolved into. But the core concept of the iPhone, what did Steve say? A revolutionary internet communicator that fits in your pocket. It's the same. Yeah. It is what it was. And that's Apple's whole concept of really why they do all of this stuff. I mean, I would love to take a walk through Johnny Ive's basement one day and see all the things that didn't get made. Because, they're constantly working and constantly trying stuff. Well, it's not Johnny Ive's anymore, but whoever is doing that stuff now. Just to see like all the things that they did say no to. And I'm sure there are plenty of them like, oh man, I would have loved that. But, and he would turn around and say, well, yeah, sure, but. And that's what makes Apple special in my mind. So, and listen, the Duo it'll be 3 and 4, and then we'll never hear from it again. I mean, it's not going to be a product that sticks around.
That's what,
like the iPhone.
Oh, go ahead, Julian.
That's exactly what I was sort of going to ask, is along the lines of like, I guess we can theorize all day long, like whether or not folding phones are like a thing that are truly here to stay, but I am wondering, and I know you guys don't have the hard numbers, I am wondering truly how many people have a folding phone. If you have one, please do let us know. I would love to be corrected on this point, but is it useful? Is it improving your life in any way? I mean, I'm sure it is cool, but to that end, I'm wondering, like, is there a market enough for a folding phone? Is there?
Samsung's made 3 generations now. I mean, someone's buying them.
That's true.
Have you ever seen one in real life?
I've never seen one in the wild.
That was not sent to you for review purposes or something like that. I've never seen a folding phone anywhere.
Definitely not.
Ever. And I look at, when I'm in a crowd, I look to see what are people using? What are they carrying? Do they have tablets, phones, Android, whatever? And I've never seen one.
Yeah, I agree. I haven't either. But, I think the last soft numbers we saw were, I don't know, a few million. Like they're selling.
They're out there somewhere.
That's over a year and change. I mean, but I don't think they're ever going to reach the point. I guess I can't say ever, but it's going to be a while before they reach the point where they supplant the regular things they're using, a phone and a tablet and a computer. And maybe there's something there. And maybe there is a way to combine all these devices into something that we can put in our pocket, open up, and we use it, close them. But it just, right now, it's a cool thing. Mm-hmm. That's like a party trick. It's like, oh, check out my phone, it folds. Oh, cool. What do you use with it? Well, like you can do this. Like, why? But I could do that on this. Yeah. And but look, it fits in my pocket. But yeah, so does my iPad Mini. It's like, well, what's the point? What's the ultimate reason for this thing to exist? That's my biggest problem with folding phones really in general.
Sure. Yeah, I do feel like it's the kind of thing that you need at least for the time being. Again, I don't want to say anything and then years from now it's going to come back to bite me. But
no one listens to this.
You do this forever, Juliet. Say it now, you'll be dead 20 years down the road.
But I am wondering if this is the kind of thing that you need a specific, for it to become like a true mainstream, not just cool party trick, if you need a specific use case for something like this. And I'm wondering if that use case is going to come. I can't think of one off of the top of my head, but I'm sure that there is one that someone has thought of wherever they're making folding phones.
I mean, maybe I have the same questions about AR glasses and all that stuff. Like it has to be there has to be a reason for it to exist. And right now, I don't see it. And I'm not surprised that Apple hasn't entered this space, and I'm not surprised that there's no rumors suggesting they're going to do it next year or even really the year after. The rumors are like 2025 and beyond, and I'm sure they're working on it. I'm sure there are prototypes. I'm sure there are production models. This is what they do. They spend millions and millions and millions of dollars on research and development to make, the very iterative iPhone 13 that we see before us.
Yeah.
Sure.
I'm curious, Michael, just to backtrack a little bit, you were talking about the iPad mini and, how that seemed to be a bit of a surprise breakout star from the event last week. Johnny Evans on Computer World had a piece, I think it was this week, talking about agreeing with that and saying that Apple should take the iPad mini and release a Pro version of it. Any thoughts around that? Do you think that would be successful?
They have one. It's called the iPad Pro.
Well, but mini, the mini,
a Pro mini. I don't know.
iPad Pro mini. Yeah, no.
So what would you gain from it? What would it do that the iPad mini doesn't do?
Whatever an iPad Pro does that an iPad doesn't.
Okay, what does an iPad Pro does that an iPad mini doesn't?
It's got a Pro in the name, that's and you can charge $200 more for it.
The iPad mini has an A15 processor. It has Apple Pencil 2 support. It has USB-C. It has up to 256 gigabytes of storage. It has an 8.3 Liquid Retina display. What more do you need from it that you don't have?
Sure.
Yeah.
So I don't think,
I'll tell Johnny you think his idea is all wet.
I'll go read it later, but we've talked about this in the past. I don't think there needs to be 5 iPads. Yeah. I don't know what, if somebody asked me, I want a 11 or 12-inch iPad, I would tell them to buy the Air. If they say I want a 9-inch iPad, I would tell them to buy the Mini. That's it. I don't see any reason to recommend a $1,000 iPad when you have a really good $500 one right below.
And this goes right back to the point we've been making about innovation versus iteration, whatever. So we don't have something, the iPad now, if you picked it up, would look very similar. If somebody came out of 2010 and said, what's the iPad look like? You held it up, they'd say, it's an iPad, okay? Mm-hmm. So what Apple has done is they've segmented the market, big, small, Pro, non-Pro, whatever. But it's just variations on a theme.
It's just, and that theme is incredibly impressive. The iPad's awesome.
and very successful for them. They make a lot of money.
I still fail to see between the 10.9-inch Air and the 11-inch iPad Pro. What is the reason to spend $200 more? I don't get it. Yeah. And even the 12.9-inch one, okay, maybe you want the bigger screen, which I don't think you need.
I've got a 12.9. I like that bigger screen. It's good.
Okay, fine. Then that's fine.
Yeah.
But I don't understand. Like, maybe if they got rid of that 11-inch model, that would make more sense to me, because then you have 8.3, 10.9, 12.9. Okay, I can see that. That's different levels of at least screen size. And the iPad Pro 12.9 has that really nice XDR display. So then you got some differentiation, and then the bottom one has the home button, and that's different. So maybe it's just that 11-inch model that bugs me. But I would venture to say that the iPad Mini is the Pro version of the old iPad Mini.
Okay. Question along those same lines, and I know we're drifting a little bit from the.
A little bit. We're out in left field.
We're gone. No, we're talking innovation in mobile technology. What's going on. Sorry. So to the whole point about the range of iPads and the difference between a Pro and a regular. What are you thinking? iPhone 13 Pro versus iPhone 13. You've got a 13 now, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Do you think the differentiation is there? Again, I know it's variations on a theme, but is that a distinctive variation that makes it worthwhile? Okay, why?
100%. Because there are
cameras, the camera thing.
The cameras are way better. The screen's better. The battery's better.
Okay.
That's what you buy a phone for. Those three things. I'm surprised that Apple didn't split up 5G and have sub-6 here, because the Mini has sub-6 but not millimeter wave. Okay. I'm a little surprised that they didn't keep millimeter wave for the Pros. But the things the Pro has: extra camera, telephoto macro, 120 hertz ProMotion display, and better battery life. That's it. Those are Pro features.
Worth the jump.
Absolutely, and it's not prohibitively more. So we're talking about $829 versus $999, or Well, you get the bigger screen, 6.7, so that's $11.99. So we're talking about $300.
Yeah.
I think absolutely those are pro devices. The two things I would add: USB-C and Apple Pencil support.
Sure.
That would be the complete pro package in my mind. But right now, yeah, if someone said I want to buy a 6.1-inch iPhone, which one should I get? I would ask them. Do you take a lot of pictures? Do you like macro pictures? Do you like telephoto? There are absolute definitive reasons to buy a pro iPhone. iPad Pro. I mean, all right, you tell me you have one.
Yeah.
Between the 11-inch Pro,
mainly for the big screen. Truly,
okay,
mainly for the big screen.
So 10.9-inch Air, 11-inch Pro, $200 difference.
Yeah.
What are you getting?
Sure.
I've had people ask me in the last week, what should they get? And I said, get the Air for that reason.
Yeah, because it's great. And it's not that the Pro isn't good, it's that the Air is so good. I don't know why you need it.
Sure. So I think to sort of tie all of this discussion into a neat bow, if possible, is I guess I'm wondering is like, what does the future of mobile look like? Like, what is, and it's okay if you guys don't have an answer for this, but I'm wondering,
I have answers for everything, Julia.
That's true.
Whether they're correct or not remains to be seen, but they are answers, yes.
So I'm wondering what, blue sky, what is the ideal mobile device? And is that something that you see in the future? Is it like a combo phone tablet like these folding phones? Is it iPad-esque? Is it I would argue smartphone-esque, mobile phone-esque?
Glasses.
I mean, maybe glasses. That's a bit out. A couple years
it's a ways.
out.
I know. Yeah.
It's blue sky. We're dreaming.
I'm still waiting for that in between device. So when
and
Apple
it's not a
released,
folding phone.
Maybe it is. I don't know.
Okay.
But when Steve Jobs unveiled the iPad Air, he showed two things on the screen: the iPhone and the MacBook. And he said the iPhone is great for, quick little things and quick making photos. The Mac is great for sitting at your desk getting work done. We need something in between those two things. And that was the iPad, and absolutely it does. What I want now is a device between the iPad and the MacBook that brings me the power of a MacBook and the OS of a MacBook and the multitasking, all the things that I do on a Mac with the portability and the versatility and the various features of an iPad. And they're trying. Apple's trying. I don't think it's there yet.
Could you do?
I mean, mainly it's an iPad OS thing. And
I was just going to say, all right, so if you had current hardware, the iPad Pro or iPad whatever, and it ran Mac OS with like a pen, the pencil, you could use the pencil.
It's got to be a little bit different, but yeah.
Would that be the in-between device you're talking about?
Well, maybe, but I guess like Mac OS on an iPad would
some version of Mac. I mean, obviously you would have to be, tweaked.
That's what it. Yeah, I mean, I'd love to see that, like to see what it is and what the problems are, because it's an M1 chip, so they could do it.
They can run it, yeah.
Yeah, they could just pop it on there and see. I mean, it's a 12.9-inch screen, so it's basically the same as the MacBook Air.
Yeah.
I mean, let's do it, Apple. Come on, what are you doing?
Well, seriously, we've talked about
the trackpad and everything.
We've talked about the idea that Apple is unlikely to ever build a laptop with a touchscreen. But if you had just a regular iPad with Mac OS running on it, I'm sure you'd realize real quick that it's really not designed for touch.
Well, it's not designed for touch, but neither is Windows, and then it works on the Surface.
I was just about to say, doesn't Microsoft have a similar device to what you're describing?
And so do lots of other people, and also Chrome. Chrome isn't really designed for touch either, and that works.
Yeah,
I think perhaps Apple is taking that too far. That yes, Mac OS works.
I understand not wanting to touch an iMac screen. If you're sitting at a desk, you don't want to do that. But if you've got a tablet in front of you, it's different.
Yeah, it's for portability. It's for the key word here being mobile.
Yeah, I mean so that's my semi kind of dream device. I mean, otherwise, like we all want to be blown away every year by something. I mean, I still remember the iPhone introduction like it was like a concert. It was like it was Steve Jobs was a rock star, and that was his Woodstock. I mean, it was incredible to witness, to watch. We want that every year. We're not getting it. It's impossible to keep up. And what Apple has done since then is extraordinarily impressive. The iPhone 13, so what were we talking about, 17 years? I mean, it's amazing. It is downright incredible what it can do. And the innovation wall, if there is one, is only because it's gotten so good and it does so much that we reach a point where it's like, all right, so what's next? I do want an always on display. But aside from that, like, you know, there's nothing that I want my iPhone to do that it doesn't do.
I was going to say, one of the things about the pace of innovation being so fast is it's easy to forget quickly what we couldn't do 14 years ago when the iPhone arrived. Like video chats, which just are humdrum. You know, we can do
video
that
chat was the
anywhere.
iPhone 4. So that was 2011 even.
If someone had told you in 2007 that in a few years you'd be video chatting with anybody, anywhere, anytime over high-speed 5G networking on a device that would last, you know, you would have been like, holy, that's got to be 30 years out.
Of course. Like, no. Not only that, but it's commonplace. Like video chats are just like, it's like we don't even think twice about it.
Yeah, all the time.
My son is growing up in a world where that's the preferred method of calling.
That's normal.
Totally.
And it's totally seamless. It's totally like, you can go back to movies from like the 80s, and what we have, video chatting, is better than that. So in a lot of ways. I mean, it's remarkable what we've got, but we're also so spoiled that we need that, you know, that big boom moment, which is why we have folding phones, because you know, companies need to make headlines and make buzz. Apple is in a unique position where anything that it does is headline making worthy news. Samsung and Google and you know, these other companies, they're not quite in that position, so they have to keep trying to generate these products that people are talking about and buzzing about. And, you know, I think that's where folding phones come from. I'm still not convinced that it's the next big thing. And it certainly won't be the next big thing if Apple never does it, because that's what it has to be. I mean, for example, the iPhone has a 3x zoom lens. 3.
Yeah.
And that's like, that's in the headlines. 3.
Yeah.
Samsung has 10.
Like
Samsung
100, right?
100 from, And people are like, oh, look, 3. And if I was a Samsung executive, I would be tearing my hair out, being like, what the hell? We have been doing this for 2 years. I mean, I tested a Galaxy S20. I could see clear across my yard into my neighbor's window, clearly. And
Stop
Apple
there, Michael. Don't tell us more. I don't want to know.
I wrote in my review that there's a privacy issue. But Apple does 3x, and people are like, wow.
Sure.
It's crazy that Apple is in this position where it can do small iterative updates and generate the kind of buzz that people have to create folding glass to get.
Sure.
So they're in a very unique, very, very fortuitous position.
One last statement, not necessarily a question, just in the last few minutes here is, I think that there is, and this maybe just could be from my perspective as someone who definitely is immersed in the Y2K trend comeback, is some of this also just feels very nostalgic. And I think, like, obviously you're going to pull and you're going to innovate based off of what happened in the past and pull inspiration from previous things. But I do wonder, I feel like some of the gimmick it does feel very nostalgic. Like when Motorola came out with the folding, I guess, Razor, but, you know, a year or two ago, that's fun. It's nostalgic, and it's that at least is interesting. So I do feel like it also kind of ties in neatly with the trend cycle that we're seeing in, you know, fashion, pop culture,
but
whatever.
Those things aren't going to change the landscape.
True.
Yeah, it's cool. The Razor's cool. Samsung has a flip, the Galaxy Z Flip, which is also cool. I've used that. It's cool. Once that coolness wears off, you're left with a phone that has a very strangely tall screen. Apps don't quite, some do, some don't work.
Yeah, how well do these work when you've tested them in the past, Mike?
I mean, the main ones are good enough, but like text are wonky. Like there are, because it's a tall screen, so the words break differently and typing is strange. Like it's not perfect. You know, but then again, you know, the iPad took a while to get their apps. Do you remember Ted? Do you remember, Ken, when the original iPad, like it was literally blown up iPhone apps.
Yes.
Like there was a
Yeah.
button that said 2x and it went super.
Yeah.
Like, that was
Well,
for a
there's still some apps on there that do
Yeah,
that. It's actually
that's
nuts.
true.
It's like, come on,
Yeah.
people.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
you know there are always growing pains, and
Yeah.
you know we think that developers can just snap a finger and just make these apps. It's not easy. Apple makes it a little bit easier than most.
Apple
because
makes
of
it
their
look
tools.
easy, which
Yeah.
which raises that expectation.
Yeah.
Again, the level of innovation that's going on behind the scenes and under the hood that goes into these devices is amazing. I don't
For
want to
sure.
sell that
Yeah,
short.
no, there's no question about that.
But yeah,
But
go
if
ahead.
Apple were to release a folding phone tomorrow, there would be a lot of headaches because all
I
of a
would
sudden
still say,
you
why
gotta
do we need a
select
folding phone, even
different
if it's from
resolution.
Apple?
Yeah, well, there's that. But
Mhm.
you know, even like let's say they convince everybody that yes, this is the next big thing. The developers have to get in there and support the new gestures, the new screen resolutions, the new you know opening and closing animations, all that stuff, and it's not easy to get on board with that. So yeah, there's a lot of headaches and then there's a lot of issues. More so with Apple because they're so secretive. Samsung, you know, they work with developers ahead of time a lot of the time to make sure that they're on board, and also with Google to make sure
Mhm.
Android's up to date. So
Right.
there's a lot of questions, a lot of left turns and stop signs ahead. I'm not convinced that's where we're going. I would be very intrigued if it was. Like I would be first, well, probably behind Ken, but I'd be at the front of the line to buy one because I'd be interested.
Hmm.
Not a folding phone. I don't think I'd be at the front of the line for a folding phone. I'm
Julia,
sorry.
can you record that? Play it back
It's
and
recorded.
read
It's
it.
live. It's on tape. Yeah.
When the Apple iFold comes out next year, we'll talk again. You know.
Eye's dead. They're not calling it an eye.
Yeah.
They haven't released an eye product in I don't know how long.
All right.
It's been a long time, with the exception of the legacy.
All right. They'd
ones
call it
like
the Apple
iMac.
Fold.
Yes.
Yeah, Fold.
Or Apple something.
Fold.
Yeah.
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 All right. Well, thank you both so much. I thought this was certainly a fun discussion. I have come up as we were talking with my ideal mobile device is something very sci-fi that I can fold up to be like, you know, this big and stick it in my pocket. And it is somehow also like laptop sized. So that's my pie in the sky
Yeah.
mobile.
Well,
It is something that folds.
I mean, the Galaxy Z does that, but it's also 17 millimeters thick. So you got to, you know, when you fold something, you have now double the thickness. Like there's a lot
Yeah.
to work
That's
with.
like
Maybe
half an inch thick or something.
LG's working on screens that roll. Maybe that's the way. I don't know. I don't know
Roll.
what it is.
That's cool.
We'll see. Like
Well-
they pull out like this instead of folding
Like a
on top.
scroll.
The accordion, the Apple accordion. You know it.
All right. Well, thank you both so much for calling in and chatting. I really appreciate it. And thank you all so much for watching this episode of Today in Tech. If you liked this video, please do give it a thumbs up. And if you are watching over on LinkedIn, you can head over to our YouTube channel, IDG Tech Talk. You can watch the video over there, give it a thumbs up over there. You can also subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon so you're notified every single time we post a new video or when we go live. If you have any questions or comments that we didn't get to while we were discussing and you're watching this after the fact, please do leave them in the comments below and I'll do my best to get back to you. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you next time.